There are colors we wear without thinking. Blues for calm, reds for power, black for elegance. But some carry a weight we don't always see. One color in particular has long been whispered about in spiritual circles, feared in folk tales, and regarded with caution by those who believe in the unseen. It's said that witches and those who dabble in the occult use this specific color not just for style, but as a tool, something that marks, identifies, or even curses those who wear it unknowingly. To many, it's just another shade on the spectrum, but to others, it's a signal, a symbol, a warning. Whether you're someone who believes in energies, or simply curious about the strange ways colors can influence perception and fate, the message is clear. Don't wear this color lightly. Some believe it doesn't just sit on your skin. It invites something deeper, something darker. You see, when we talk about color, this particular color, we're not just talking about fashion or aesthetics. We're not talking about what looks good on your skin tone or what's trending this season. No, we're diving into something much older, something layered, with cultural memory and spiritual resonance. There are colors that are simply pleasing to the eye, and then there are those that carry weight, energy, intention, and this one has been whispered about for centuries. Passed through generations, not in textbooks, but in hushed warnings, in subtle gestures, in stories that begin with, "Don't wear that." Colors are not neutral. They speak, they communicate, they evoke, and sometimes they conceal messages that only a few are trained to understand. This particular color, let us not name it just yet, but feel it, has long been associated with boundary breaking, spiritual veils, and the thin line between the visible and invisible world. In many traditions, it is the color worn by those who wish to be unseen by the average eye, but highly visible to spiritual entities. Think on that for a moment. What does it mean for a color to make you more visible to the invisible? Witches, whether we define them by folklore, religion, or cultural mysticism, have always understood symbolism better than most. They've known how to use objects, herbs, sounds, and yes, colors, to guide energy, manipulate outcomes, or mark territory, and sometimes to mark people, to identify those who are spiritually open or spiritually vulnerable. This color is not chosen at random. It's not just for dramatic effect. It's chosen because it aligns with certain vibrations, frequencies that open doors rather than close them. In some belief systems, this color is linked to the crown chakra, the seat of spiritual consciousness. In others, it's tied to mourning, mystery, or the invocation of ancestral spirits. Now let me be clear, not every person who wears this color is cursed, and not every witch who sees it is casting spells. That's not what this is about. This is about intention, alignment, and awareness. If you don't know what you're inviting, if you don't know what you're carrying, you might be walking around as an open book in a room full of people trained to read between the lines. You might be wearing something that, in the right eyes, says, "Here I am, unguarded, unaware, unprotected." There's also a psychological dimension to this. Jung spoke of the collective unconscious, the idea that we all carry ancient symbols, archetypes, and meanings deep within us, whether we recognize them or not. This color taps into that space. It triggers something primal, something we can't quite name but can definitely feel. It makes you noticeable in a room. A network error occurred. Please check your connection and try again. If this issue persists, please contact us through our help center at helpopenai.com. Now, let's walk a little deeper into the shadows. Because once you understand that certain colors carry power, the next natural question is, how is that power used? And more importantly, by whom? There's a long tradition, some written, some spoken, and some only felt, that suggests this specific color is not only charged with energy, but also used deliberately. Witches, seers, practitioners of the old ways, they don't just wear this color, they wield it. It becomes more than cloth. It becomes a key, or in some cases, a weapon. And for those who understand the mechanics of spiritual energy, it becomes a signature, a stamp, a mark. Now, when we say someone is being marked, we're not talking about something as obvious as a scar or a symbol drawn in chalk. We're talking about spiritual intent, subtle, quiet, but no less potent. Think of it as leaving fingerprints on someone's soul. Not visible to the naked eye, but clear as day in the energetic realm. That's how this color functions when used intentionally. It draws attention not from people, but from forces, energies that may not have your best interest at heart. There are those who believe, deeply and historically, that witches use this color in rituals to flag a person energetically, to make them more open, more suggestible, more connected to realms they don't even realize they're brushing up against. And often it's not about immediate harm, it's about access. Like a back door left cracked open, a vulnerability exposed. Sometimes it's as subtle as increasing confusion in the mind. Other times it manifests as fatigue, misfortune, strange dreams, or a constant sense of being watched but never knowing why. These things aren't always traced back to what you wore, but energy, my dear, has memory. And intention? Intention leaves a trail. Let's bring it back to the human level. You ever walk into a room and feel the atmosphere shift? You don't see it, you can't prove it, but your body knows. Your intuition picks up on it. That's because we're not just physical beings, we're receivers and transmitters. And just like a radio can pick up a frequency when it's tuned right, you too can pick up on energies. Especially if someone has already tuned you to that channel without your knowledge. That's the kind of spiritual technology we're talking about. Now let's not get lost in paranoia. This isn't about superstition. It's about understanding that not everything is coincidence. Some things are constructed, deliberate, chosen. The way a spider spins its web isn't random. It's patterned, precise, designed to trap. In the same way, spiritual markings using color are often part of a system, a quiet, disciplined art, the kind of thing passed down behind closed doors, in whispers and with rituals older than most of our religion. And here's the part many don't realize. The person being marked often has no idea it's happening. That's the danger of ignorance. That's the cost of walking through a symbolic world while refusing to believe in symbols. You wear the color. You step into the circle, you speak the words you don't understand, and suddenly, something is following you. Not because it's evil, but because you've signaled you're open, and someone trained in these arts, well, they don't need much more than that. They see the mark, they recognize it, and they know what to do with it. But let me offer you a deeper truth. While someone may attempt to mark you, to shift your path, to influence your spirit, you are not powerless. Awareness is a form of resistance. Knowledge is a shield. Once you know how energy works, once you realize the hidden layers at play, you start choosing differently. You become intentional. You become a force of your own. So when someone uses this color as a tool, as a trap, as a way to reach into your life, you'll feel it. You'll recognize the shift. And more importantly, you'll know how to close the door. Not through fear, but through discernment, through grounding, through the radical act of paying attention. Because what you wear can speak louder than what you say. And if someone's trying to mark you, silently, symbolically, you better learn how to mark yourself with strength, clarity, and protection. Always remember, just because you didn't choose the game doesn't mean you can't learn the rules. To truly understand the weight of this color, the one we've been speaking of, the one whispered through generations, you have to look back. Not just back in your own memory, but back through time, through history, through myth. Because nothing that carries this much spiritual weight appears out of nowhere. It's woven into the fabric of who we've been, what we've feared, and what we've dared to believe. And when you trace it, you'll see this color didn't just become powerful. It has always been. It has always symbolized something more than pigment. In ancient Egypt, it was used to signify transition, spiritual protection, and connection to the afterlife. In medieval Europe, it was feared, revered, often reserved for the mysterious, the divine, or the damned. In indigenous cultures across the globe, from African tribal ceremonies to Native American ritual dress, it shows up again and again, not randomly, but with deep intent. It marks the wearer as someone different, someone in contact with forces unseen. Sometimes it protects, sometimes it warns, sometimes it isolates. Now let's not assume that these associations were all born from fear. That would be too simple, too modern, too clinical. No, the truth is far more nuanced. This color has lived at the edge of understanding. It has straddled the line between power and danger, between healing and harm. And throughout history, societies didn't take such symbols lightly. They encoded them in ritual, in clothing, in architecture. The temples were bathed in it, mourning clothes stitched from it, sacred text inked in it, because somewhere in the collective unconscious we knew this was no ordinary color. And yet, as modernity marched forward, we started forgetting. We began to flatten the world, to strip it of its spiritual language, to silence the subtle and elevate only the logical. But color is not something you can reduce to a science alone. Color lives in emotion. It lives in symbol. It lives in the spaces logic can't touch. Even in religious texts. Yes, even there. This color has meaning. In biblical scripture, it's often tied to royalty, to priesthood, but also to mystery and judgment. In Eastern traditions, it represents the cosmic, the divine void, the space before creation itself. And think about that for a moment. A color associated with the place before light, the womb of the unknown. That's no accident. But let's not stop at religion. Let's go into folklore. How many stories have we inherited where this color cloaks the witch, the sorcerer, the gatekeeper between this world and the next? It's in the fairy tales, in the ballads, in the legends whispered around fires. It's never just about fashion. It's always about function, always about power. In some stories, it's protection from spirits. In others, it's an invitation to them. And when you listen closely, the message becomes clear. This color is a portal. Not a door, but a signal that one is nearby. Psychologically, we feel it before we know it. People walk into a room wearing it, and suddenly the air shifts. It commands attention, not because it screams, but because it hums. It vibrates at a frequency our conscious minds can't quite decode, but our nervous systems do. That's why it's used by those who want to remain unreadable, those who understand that color can distort, seduce, even deceive. It creates a sense of otherness, of control, of mystery. It's been used to inspire fear, to elicit awe, to signal death, to conjure rebirth. And that brings us to the deeper point. If this color has appeared in so many cultures, in so many epochs, always tied to power, mystery, and the divine, then surely we must consider that something in it speaks to the universal. Something in it transcends language, culture, and creed. Something in it marks a threshold between what we can touch and what we cannot. So when we say witches use it to mark people, we're not inventing a new story. We're echoing an old one that was written long before us, carried on the backs of grandmothers who knew how to read the sky and stir the earth. One that shows up in ruins and scrolls and sacred chants. We're not creating superstition, we're remembering. We're remembering that once upon a time, people took symbols seriously. They treated colors like portals. They treated the unseen like it mattered. And maybe they were onto something. You don't need to fear the color, but you do need to see it. See what it carries. See what it stirs. Because if a symbol is that consistent across centuries and continents, you owe it to yourself to ask, what is it saying to you? History doesn't forget what we try to ignore. It waits, silent and patient, for us to pay attention. And now we must turn inward. Because after all the symbols, the history, the folklore, after everything we've said about witches and intention and the spiritual meanings tied to this color, it still comes down to you, to what happens inside your mind, your body, your energy field when you wear it. Because color doesn't just exist out there in the world. It exists in here. In the way it makes you feel, in the shift it causes in your posture, your presence, your perception of self. in how others react to you, even before a word has been spoken. Psychologists have long studied the impact of color on the human mind. It can stimulate or sedate. It can provoke or soothe. This particular color, the one we've been circling, the one witches have long used as a spiritual marker, is known to evoke deep emotional and psychological responses. It can wrap you in a sense of power, but it can also cloak you in melancholy. It can elevate your awareness or drag your spirit into introspection so heavy it begins to feel like fog. There is a kind of energetic weight to it. Not everyone can carry it, and not everyone should. When you wear a color like this, you're doing more than making a fashion choice. You're stepping into a frequency, and every frequency has a consequence. You are aligning yourself with something ancient, something that doesn't need words to communicate. That color may make you feel powerful for a moment, but you must ask yourself, what is the source of that power? Is it rooted in truth, in grounding and clarity, or is it seduction, mystery, illusion? Sometimes we feel strong not because we are protected, but because we are unseen. And that's not strength. That's camouflage. People pick up on that frequency whether they realize it or not. Some will be drawn to you, but not for who you are, for the archetype you've stepped into. Others will feel uneasy, unable to name why, but trusting that something about your energy is closed off, unreachable. That's what this color does. It disrupts the usual flow of interaction. It introduces mystery. And while mystery can be powerful, too much of it, wielded carelessly, can become isolation, alienation, spiritual vulnerability. And the vulnerability isn't always visible. It's quiet. It shows up in ways we shrug off, like sudden mood swings, difficulty focusing, feeling constantly observed or inexplicably exhausted. When you are marked energetically, whether by your own unawareness or by someone else's intention, you begin to leak light, little by little. That's why awareness is not just poetic, it is protective. You have to ask yourself, am I choosing this color, or is this color choosing me? Am I wearing it because I feel whole and want to express that depth? Or am I wearing it because I feel invisible and want to cloak that pain in something that looks like strength? There is a vast difference between dressing for healing and dressing for hiding. One liberates, the other traps. And it's not just how you feel, it's how others respond to you. You become a mirror. You reflect their projections, their fantasies, their fears. And some people, especially those sensitive to energy, those who walk in shadows, can see more than you want to show. They will read you as open or marked or available in ways you never consented to. That's why the language of color must be spoken with fluency, with caution, with reverence. You see, this is not about saying never wear it. No. It's about knowing what you're stepping into when you do. It's about wearing it with clarity, with strength, with spiritual armor. When witches use this color to mark you, they are not relying on the garment alone. They're counting on your ignorance, your sleepwalking. But when you walk in full awareness, when your energy is anchored and your mind is clear, then no color can harm you, no mark can stick. You become the author of your presence, not the canvas for someone else's story. And isn't that what power truly is? Not performance, not mystery, but truth. A quiet, grounded truth that doesn't need to be seen to be real. So the next time your hand reaches for that shade, pause. Listen to yourself. Check your spirit. Ask, what am I calling in? And what am I ready to carry? Because awareness is the highest form of protection, and intention is the most sacred kind of power. So now you see, this isn't just about a color. It's about consciousness. It's about how we move through the world, how we wear things, say things, live things, without realizing what we're aligning ourselves with. We've walked through the history, the spiritual layers, the psychological weight, and the quiet intentions behind a color, so often dismissed as simple fabric. But nothing in this world is simple once you start paying attention. There are forces, seen and unseen, that respond to intention, that respond to vibration, that read us long before we speak. And when we choose to live unconsciously, we become easy to influence, easy to mark, easy to move like pieces on a board we didn't even know we were standing on. But when we wake up, when we take back authorship of our energy, our choices, our symbols, we become something else entirely. We become participants in the mystery, not victims of it. So whether you believe in witches or not, whether you call it energy, spirit, intuition, or just gut feeling, the truth remains. Nothing you wear is neutral. Everything you put on your body either protects you or exposes you, either grounds you or opens you to things you don't understand. And the most dangerous kind of power is the one you don't know you're giving away. You don't need to fear the color, but you must respect it, know what it carries, know what it attracts, and above all, know yourself. Because when you wear awareness like a second skin, no mark, no spell, no shade can touch what is rooted in truth. So the next time you stand before your reflection, ready to choose what you wear, choose not just with your eyes, but with your spirit. Because the most sacred protection is always and will always be knowing who.